Hey everyone, welcome back to Taking Back Monday. I am so excited that you decided to say goodbye to the Sunday scaries and hello to a brand new future of work. And I'm even more excited to introduce you to my new friend, Rebecca. Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. I'm so happy to be here.
So, longtime listeners will know I always open with the same question because I just get such interesting stories out of it. So, I'm going to ask you our signature question. What is your origin story?
Oh, that is a loaded question for sure. I mean, obviously, like everybody, it's like a culmination of events throughout my life. But something that it's an unfortunate reality that I personally have experienced significant trauma throughout my life. And while that is a sad way to start this conversation, it really has significantly impacted and shaped who I am today because there's nothing like you know getting kind of bitch slapped with some truth and reality, and life is not always roses and a walk in the park. And some people get dealt different cards. And I think that when we're able to recognize and realize that we all kind of have our own stories and our own walks in this existence, it helps us be better leaders and more effective just humans, to have that empathy. And unfortunately, it sometimes is born from traumatic experiences or just significant life events that really just kind of jar you in a way that make you see the world differently and see people differently. I think the humanistic elements that make each of us who we are as individuals are insanely important. And so my origin story, like I said, is a number of significant events, but the one that really shaped me and that we'll touch on, I think, in this conversation today is I lost my husband 4.5 years ago. My daughter was 18 months old and my son had just turned 4. I have always had a high profile career, and it really fundamentally changed who I am and how I approach life across the board, right? And there's so many what I call toxic positivity, like statements where it's like, oh, you can't pour from an empty cup, and self-care and work-life balance. And that's all a bunch of bullshit because those are things that are conditioned to make you feel like you're supposed to be meeting some bar. And I'm here to tell you that the bar doesn't exist. It's what you create and what you need and want it to be, and you have full control over that. So my origin has kind of been this full approach to redesigning and redefining myself as a person. And it's been a journey, that's for sure.
I think I hear a lot of people talk about, various degrees of trauma, right? And it's how you come out of it rather than how you sit in it, right? So I love that you call out the toxic positivity. So like
David May, right?
I had a baby. It was a semi-traumatic birth. It didn't go well. He ended up in the NICU. It was a whole thing and it was very stressful. And I was struggling really hard as a new mom. Like all of those expectations that you get put and you get in your head, and then you're just disappointed for something that was never real. Because
Right.
I joke, nobody tells you the truth about what it's like to have kids. It's hard, right? And I had a baby who had some difficulties and he was just a tough baby. Like my daughter was entirely different. My son, my
Same.
firstborn, like he was tough. Wanted to only be held a certain way, and you weren't allowed to sit while you were holding him. Otherwise, he would just like lose his shit. And so I went to back to work fairly quickly, and I was so happy at work because I was back to who I was pre-baby. Like I loved my job. I loved my business. I was an entrepreneur. I was building something I cared about. And I felt so much judgment from everyone around me for not sleeping when baby sleeps and not like
Yeah.
pouring from an empty cup. I felt that one so hard, but I was happy at work and that was okay. Um, but that guilt of feeling like, well, I'm not doing it right. I'm doing
Yeah.
all the wrong things and I'm not every woman. I can't have it all, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really hard and something that we have to come to terms with. And you telling me that it'll all work out and it'll be fine isn't helpful.
No. And no matter what anybody says to you about, an experience, we all experience things differently, and so the best we can do is just share, what we've been through and have that kind of empathy. But assigning, an expectation or a responsibility to someone that may have, maybe apples to oranges does nothing but harm. And so the new mom thing is especially aggressive. Like that's its own vibe. And that was terrible.
Yeah. I was
Um,
in one of those mom groups on Facebook and I had to leave because it was so toxic in there.
well, yeah,
Sorry.
like story for another day, but I found it so miserable out there that I started ironically on Facebook, I started my own mom's group and it got so big that I actually have my own nonprofit now because
Oh,
I was so disappointed with how we were treating each other and how new moms were not supported. And the whole premise of our group is don't be an asshole. You can,
I love it.
organic, not organic, breastfed, bottle fed, no one cares. Like
Right.
just it been this competitive thing. So I feel you. I'll have to extend you an invitation to
You will
to our
because
healthy group.
I love it. But to that point though, you talked about something pretty traumatic like spouse loss and having young children and
Yeah.
having a high profile career. How did you start to dig yourself out of that trauma and turn it into something that you could do something with?
Yeah, well, I mean, to be clear, you never dig yourself out of that trauma because there are constant daily reminders. Like this morning, my kids are at spring break camp and they're going swimming. And so I had to pack both their bags with all their swim stuff, and there's no one there to help you do that. And it's this constant reminder of like you're alone, like this is all you. My son just got invited to a full day AP class program next year, and I have no one to celebrate that with.
Right.
So there's like all these reminders. The first year is like a wash because you're just in shock and like I personally became pretty manic and I was like going to the gym and like lifting super heavy every day. I probably drank a lot more than I normally drank. It was a rough year and you're just kind of trying to settle in. Um but you're really kind of going through and regardless, let's take like the my specific situation off the table, right? When you have a life event that jars you in the way that does, and grief is not linear or processing something is not linear. You kind of bounce around through all this stuff. But throughout that, you're redesigning and redefining who you are, what matters to you. You're establishing new boundaries, whether that be in, like if you're going to try dating again or even with your children or with your family, or what projects do you take on? Like I do a lot of volunteering and for me saying no was a learning lesson of like, wow, like I can't realistically have all this on my plate anymore and still be a good mom and still have time to
Right.
take care of myself and self-care. I mean, that you have to, well, when is there time for me to care for myself? And so you really have to learn to rebalance and recalibrate. And that makes room for tough decisions sometimes. And I mean, even with the kids, like there's only one of me. And so if somebody needs help with something, like you're gonna have to wait or go do it. You have two arms and two legs, go do it yourself. We're a very independent, focused household. But then also like, oh my gosh, like they got invited to birthday parties on the same day. And how the hell am I gonna do that? So it's a lot of weird stuff, but I think the magic comes with that same what we started out with is where what is this bar, right? Because I think at least for me, so I had to do a bunch of therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy after Ryan passed because I was like short circuiting. I was like, how can I do all these things? And it was around, so he passed away in August and that like late August, then we went right into like Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas and all these like big decorative celebratory type events, especially for kids. And by around Christmas time, I was in full-blown panic attack, like literally medicated panic attack mode. And it was scary. And so I entered into this therapy program and we, through our conversations, I don't know how it came about. And so I'm not really doing it service saying it, but I decorate, like, I'm that crazy person that would, like, decorate for all holidays. I'm like, we're the party house, like, we're always doing stuff. And so my outside, I have all these Christmas decorations. I have this, like, sparkly light up Santa. and the wind or whatever, like he would always like fall into the bushes. And I was telling my therapist, I was like, I was always compelled, like if I was driving out of the house or leaving, like, and I saw Santa in the bushes, like I had to go fix Santa. And she was like, and the same thing can be replaced for like dishes in the sink and you feeling like you would have to like the same thing about being the mom, right? Like, oh my God, like I have to buy the best things. I have to be, co-sleeping or whatever, fill in the blank.
And if it's not working, it's your fault.
Right. Like, and then
Right.
like, so my thought process, she was like, what is it about Santa? And I was like, well, the kids deserve like this magical Christmas. And what will the neighbors think? And they know my situation that my husband died. And they're going to be like, oh, look at that poor woman with her house in disarray because Santa's in the fucking bushes. But that's what my brain was telling me.
Right.
And I was actually behaving because of those completely unrealistic thoughts with some bar that was set by not me that I
Right.
was trying to constantly meet. And it was psychotic. I mean, psychotic when you say it out loud.
Right.
And
But
but
how
we
many
do it.
times, like, we do this in our, so obviously your trauma, more trauma than most people really have to deal with. But we see this same pattern circulate in every aspect of our lives. Think about like the
Everything.
coworkers that you have that just get it in their head about the PowerPoint slides. I had someone on the podcast a couple of months ago who was like, we create these artificial deadlines, but in reality, nobody's dying if we don't hit this time. And I'm like, oh my God, that's why it's called a deadline, right? Like, this is our absolute have to have it done. And yet, someone is freaking out because we have to send this email through 55 approvals and it's an internal email that nobody's actually going to read.
Yeah. It's frugal culture and it's killing us.
Yeah.
And it's pervasive throughout all aspects of our life. And I mean, social media has been a huge negative influence on that because it's like, I'm guilty, right? Go look at my Facebook and I look like this like perfect mom and me and the
Right.
kids are doing all this shit and like whatever. But really, I yell a lot and I feel like I'm constantly failing and my Santa is falling in the bushes and like I am a normal person. And I think that we need to normalize just like mediocrity because that's enough, right?
Right.
Like where and the bar has become something that for me personally, in my kind of therapeutic journey is like figuring out who's when you feel compelled to behave a certain way or to do something or that thought that's in your brain, who put that there? Is it you? Is it a personal goal of yours? Is this something
Right.
that you need and want to improve and that you want to invest energy and time and effort into? Then yes, like put that on your vision board, girl. Get it done. Like make that a reality. But if it's some other expectation that was put there by society or someone other entity or person that is not worth your spoons. Have you ever heard that before? Do you have any
No, what does that mean?
spoons to give? Yeah, if you don't have spoons to give that, I don't know, I picked that up somewhere. I think it's catchy. But yeah, I mean, it's really all about what you can funnel that energy into, and if it's not serving you, then
Right. Well, and making the choice to actually decide what is for you versus what is for someone else. Because sometimes I feel like I'm just kind of going along with the plan, right? Okay, well, I do this first and then I do this and then I do that. And not necessarily thinking about it as a strategic decision process of what I'm going to do next, but rather let the world, my career, my business happen to me rather than happen
mm,
for me.
I like that too. Yeah. And I think delegation is something that is often overlooked, especially like if we're gonna like talk about leadership too. Um, if you are like me and you had struggled with that kind of overachiever mindset or that you have to do all the things all the time, setting those boundaries for yourself too can be really difficult and learning how to delegate can be really surprisingly challenging for people because sometimes it's like, well, I can do it faster myself, or I have a certain way that I like to do things, and so I'm just going to do this. But delegation doesn't always have to be to a person either. Delegation can be to another day, to another time, and it's like I don't have like this is not. It's prioritization, right? Like this is not something that I have to do today. leaving the dishes in the sink, I like mentioned that. That was a real thing for me too, because the negative voice in my head was like, you're a terrible mother. Your house is unclean. Look at you. Like you don't have it together. And so I remember the first day that I left the dishes in the sink overnight from dinner. And you know what I did? The next morning, I immediately ran downstairs and did the dishes because I was like, but
Right.
now, like, it's taken time. And not that I leave dirty dishes in my sink very long because I still don't. But I would walk by that sink of dirty dishes and that negative voice would say, look what you're
Right.
doing, you know?
How dare you
How
fail this
dare
way?
you? Yeah.
Yeah.
But we do that, and that can translate into our work too. So we have to be, if you have that kind of mindset, we have to be very aware of that thought process that we've been conditioned because it's conditioned, it's a habit.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of untrain yourself. And it's not so much as going through the activity of leaving the dishes in the sink. It's the ability to walk by said sink of dishes and not have that voice yell at you or seeing Santa in the bushes and laughing about it.
Right.
You
And
can go
making
you can go
the
fix Santa later if you want to, but we're not screeching the car to a halt and jumping out and going to fix him
right.
like we used to.
Making the choice to decide that, right? And not just saying, oh, I have to do it because of whatever reason, but understanding and unpacking why you've made those choices.
Yeah.
I have kind of a different take from my own struggles with delegation because I'm terrible at it.
Oh,
Um, so it's not for me, it's not that I don't believe that someone else can do it better. I just am apparently a freaking martyr when it comes to my work. And what I've found is it's not that I'm not delegating because, or I'm not delegating because I don't think someone else can do it or it has to be done my way. But I don't want anyone else to suffer. So I guess I'll work 70 hours a week so everybody else can work 32.
mhm.
And like in my mind, I'm thinking as a leader, okay, I'm doing the right thing. I'm taking care of my people, but at my own expense, right? And I'm not giving them the opportunities to have ownership or grow in the same way that I've been afforded up to this
Right.
point. And so as soon as I realized that like you're not being a good leader, you're just being a martyr, right? Then I had to start looking at what I was doing and saying, am I doing this because I truly want to do it? Or am I doing it because I don't want anyone else to feel inconvenienced by my existence? Right.
Yeah.
And that's a very like people pleaser thing that I didn't even
Mm.
realize was manifesting in my delegation.
Yeah, we do it to our children too.
Hmm.
It's I think there's a term for that now called like a helicopter parent or something.
Oh, my husband will be like, Alyssa, I can hear your blades whirring from over here. Like, put them away. But like, you
Parents
don't
can
have to
take
call me out
on,
like
yeah.
that.
Oh, that's so funny. But I mean, we do it to our kids too, and we're not doing them a service because we're not teaching them those independent life skills when we're constantly like swooping in
Just let me do it
and
for you.
see.
I'll just do it for you. It's
I mean,
faster if
yeah,
I just
well,
do
you
it.
want to save them from failure and from heartache and like from all those things. But man, like that kind of, what we're talking about is like, your origin story and what has shaped you to become the person that you are. And so how do you want to shape these people, whether it's a direct report or whether it's your children or whatever? I mean, I think leadership takes a lot of different forms. And if you have made your way into leadership in your career, I mean, sure, there are some people that end up in roles happenstance or that maybe that, friend of a friend and you're in charge of things. And maybe not always qualified or good, but a lot of people I think have natural leadership abilities. And unfortunately, I also think I'm gonna say it, I think that some of our toxic traits actually lend themselves. So like I can multitask like a psychopath. Like I am able to juggle a ridiculous amount of stuff. And maybe that's why the universe dealt me the cards that it did. Um, because it's like we know you can handle. I'm like a cockroach. Like I'm
Right.
so resilient. Like I'm never like you can't, I'm gonna survive. I'd love a break, universe. Like if we could just slow it down a little bit, that'd be great. But I think that there's magic in, like you said, kind of I struggle with the, it's not what did you say? It's not how hard you fall, but it's like how you get back up. I
Right.
hate that by the way.
Right.
Um, because no, it is how you fall too, right? Like I call it sitting in the pool. This is my analogy. Sometimes it's a quick dip. and I'm going to go and I'm going to be miserable, or I'm going to like be upset, or I'm going to have a moment. Sometimes it's a leisurely swim, and I'm going to be in the pool. I'm going to have my time, and I'm going to be nasty, angry. I'm going to be crying or whatever, whatever that looks like. Shut out from the world. Or sometimes it's a soak, right? And when you lose a spouse, it's a soak, right? You're in
Right.
that pool.
It's
We're
more wave
living in
pool
the
than lazy
pool.
river, right?
We're pruny in the pool. And so there's different kinds of moments in time, and I think there's importance in knowing what your needs are when you fall, right? It's not about getting back, like how fast, because like here's my like get out of that pool, suck it up, right? Because
Right.
we're so hard on ourselves. But instead, even just sitting with those feelings and being in that uncomfortable, shitty moment is super important too. Because honestly, I think that's where the magic happens, because that's when you devise your plan and you're reshaping, recalibrating, making that new version of you before you can get out. So, yes, getting out is important. Don't ever stay in the pool. Because and if you are stuck in the pool, get help, right?
Yeah.
That's why I did some therapy, because I needed it. I was in a real bad place, and that's okay. I was like, this is hard. All of this is wildly hard. But sit in that pool.
I love that. And I think that we kind of talked about it at the beginning, and normally I close with the question of like, and thinking of all the incredible people that you've had a chance to meet. Um, but sometimes it's just trying to find community and resources and connections in the world around you. So if we are looking to get out of the pool or looking to be inspired or trying to reconnect with ourselves and who we are and who we want to be, who else should we be talking to, listening to, paying attention to?
Yeah, I am not the right person for that question. And I think because I have developed hyper independence,
Hmm.
through all of my
Are you a first
experience.
daughter by chance? A firstborn
I
daughter by
am. I'm
chance?
the
Good.
oldest,
Okay, me
and
too.
I'm an
Hmm.
'80s baby, so we were an entire micro generation. So yeah, very independent, and so asking for help and seeking out help is not my forte. So, however, I do have a podcast that I like. It's called Coaching for Leaders with Dave, and I'm not gonna Stachowiak. Stachowiak? I butchered the last name, guaranteed. But episode number 722, I had pulled it up so I didn't misquote it, but this really resonated with me. I actually listened to it recently. Um, it was with a guest named Rebecca, so it's good. But it's called Where to Start in Survival Mode. And obviously it's geared for leaders, but it's kind of talking about, from in a professional setting, when you're building things or when you've got a lot going on, and it's like, how do we navigate this? And I think especially with all the changes, like I'm government adjacent. And so it's a wild one out there right now. So very much kind of survival mode. And again, even taking the principles and things that we talked about today about redefining, recalibrating, reshaping strategies, approaches. And that can be anything from, like right now I'm building a high performing team, and it takes a lot of effort and energy. I'm redesigning processes where we're, being strategic about what accounts and what customers we want to focus on within the federal space. And we've had to reshape and reshift that aggressively, quickly, because the landscape has totally turned on its head. But episode 722, Where to Start in Survival Mode, got a lot of really interesting perspective from a business standpoint and personal approach standpoint from that. And really just kind of utilizing any resources to kind of get those brain juices flowing, I think helps me out. And I find them in very odd places. So I think being aware and always kind of being open to possibilities. If there's anything that trauma teaches you, is to expect the unexpected and to always, and it's the fight or flight, which is not always healthy, but I am the most open-minded person. I'm always looking for opportunities or aware of doors that might open a crack or new relationships that present themselves, and really just kind of opening yourself and your mind up to possibilities. And I think when you're able to internalize that as a value and belief system as an individual, and then also share that as a leader, it just leads to just wonderful opportunities and growth as a person and a professional.
Awesome. Rebecca, if someone is really connecting with you, they want to learn more about you, your journey, or just hang out and chat, where can they find you online?
Yeah, I would love that so much. I do a lot of public speaking, so I'm always happy to participate in activities where my needs and my experience aligns to others. LinkedIn is probably the best place to find me. And my profile is pretty colorful, I'll put it that way. I talk a lot about AI, talk a lot about procurement in the federal space, and also personal and professional growth. So I look forward to connecting with many people.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking back Monday with me.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for joining us on Taking Back Monday, where we say goodbye to the Sunday scaries and hello to meaningful and fulfilling work. If you enjoyed today's episode, let's connect on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you found value here, share the podcast with your network. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps us inspire more leaders to join the movement. Until next time, let's take back Monday.